I've been in a lot of places, but this is one that I've always wanted to be in, and I have to tell you, at 25 years old, I'm not too far away from where you guys are. Just graduated about 3 years ago, so I know what it feels like to be in college. You know, I went to UNLV, so slightly different than Liberty University in Las Vegas, Nevada, but hey, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm truly, truly honored to be here. And boy, what a year it's been, right? You know, as Charles Dickens once wrote, it truly is the best of times and the worst of times here in the United States of America. Got a lot of work to do to make America great again, but we're well on our way, I promise you, we are. You know, and if you ever start to feel otherwise, I want you to remind yourselves of three very important things. Number one, you live in the greatest nation on the face of the earth. Number two, Donald J. Trump is your president. And I see your Trump shirt, sir. In the Trump shirt, I see you. That was a good choice today. So let's go through those again. Number one, we live in the greatest nation on the face of the earth. Number two, Donald J. Trump is our president. And number three, guys, this one is very important, so I want to hear you scream for this one. Hillary Rodham, email deleting, Benghazi lying, sham foundation, crooked Clinton is not. That is one woman that is not my president, and she's not yours either, no matter how much they like to tell you otherwise on certain networks. But, you know, speaking of the election, I want to start our time together today with a little poll, and I promise you, our poll today is guaranteed to be more accurate than any poll by the New York Times, the Washington Post, ABC, NBC, MSNBC, and of course, CNN. So here we go. I want you guys all to participate, so I'd appreciate it if you'd help me with my poll, because I'm collecting the numbers here. It's very important. You guys are in college. You're probably far better at math than I am, so let's do this. All right. Raise your hand if you lost friends on social media or otherwise after the 2016 election. All right. And some of you aren't being honest. Some of you aren't being honest. Let's do that again. Raise your hand if you lost friends or family members that don't talk to you anymore after the 2016 election season. All right. Next question. Raise your hand if you tend to have friends that are like-minded, that tend to think and believe like you do. If that's who you surround yourself with usually, raise your hand. All right. Last one, raise your hand if you've ever been told it's not okay to discuss religion or politics with your friends, your family, your classmates. That's something that you've been told your whole life. Don't talk about those things. Don't talk about religion. Don't talk about politics. You never know which way someone's going to lean. You don't want to offend anyone. All right, well, let's fix that. First of all, if you lost friends over the 2016 election, congratulations, because you just got rid of some toxic people in your life. And I'm not just saying that if you're a conservative. If you're a liberal and you lost friends, same goes for you. You lost some toxic people in your life. Truth is that people who really value your friendship don't have to agree with your politics to be your friend. But here's the deal. That doesn't mean you should only have friends that think like you do. You will never grow as a conservative, a liberal, a Christian, or a person if you live inside of an echo chamber. So smash it, and smash it now. And whoever told you not to discuss religion or politics gave you some bad advice, and here's why. Your faith, your political beliefs, and the way in which you see the world are important pieces of who you are. Don't hide them, don't sugarcoat them, and please, for the love of God, do not change them to fit in or be accepted. Never do that. See, being taught to avoid talking about politics and religion has led to a lack of understanding of politics and religion. What we should be taught is how to have a civil conversation about a difficult topic. And today I'm going to give you the tools to do just that. You can call it my final thoughts for Liberty University. Now, I think you know this, but I'm a conservative and I'm also a Trump supporter. So I'm going to attack this lesson from that viewpoint. So here we go. Let's have some fun. Let's start with free speech, shall we? I like it. Who appreciates free speech in this room? And I should see every single hand, every single hand. Folks, I want to tell you something, though, that you may not have been told before. Free speech isn't just saying what you want to say, it's also hearing what you don't want to hear. Now, I'm not going to name any names, the liberals. They tend to forget the free speech tolerance part when it comes to an idea they don't want to hear. Well, lucky for you guys, you're already on the most strategic battlefield fighting for free speech, and that's right, that's college campuses. And I have a feeling yours is a little different, but you're still on a college campus. And you have friends that probably go to other universities, so this is very important. See, some universities have adopted free speech zones. You know, places where you're allowed to say what you want to say and you have to hear things you don't want to hear. Well, here's a constitution and a geography lesson for these censorship warriors. The United States of America, yeah, that's our free speech zone, so get used to it. We need to stop reinforcing the idea that words hurt, and the worst thing that can happen to you is your feelings are hurt. Wrong. I mean, really, how condescending is that? Older people are effectively telling you that you are too fragile to hear the words that they don't like. Let me tell you guys, if you don't stand up for your free speech and your free speech rights, you are effectively sitting back and watching them dwindle away, and we can't let that happen, and I'm counting on all of you, because we're the future. And the free speech and the right to free speech, so many have died for. So it's up to us to defend it. And we know that I do that every day, but I need your help. And that doesn't mean you have to be a conservative to defend it either. We just tend to do it a little better. All right. Here's another thing we can't happen any longer, and that's open borders. I don't know about you guys, but that's a big one for me. So I don't know if you guys have been watching the news lately. I hope it's Fox, but you know, if you prefer CNN, that's all good with me. But just last week, an illegal immigrant who was on his 6th deportation was found not guilty of murdering Kate Steinle. So why was he here in the first place? That would be poor border enforcement. And why was he allowed to stay? Well, you can ask those in charge of the sanctuary city of San Francisco. The notion that illegal immigrants should be protected while Americans are left to die is so utterly ridiculous, it boggles my mind. So many liberals defend it. It's all about compassion, they say. It's all about tolerance, they say. It's all about the American dream, they say. Well, here's what you say to them. What about the legal immigrants who do it the right way? The legal immigrants who spend thousands of dollars and years waiting in line because they respect our country enough to follow our laws. What do the Democrats say to those immigrants? Illegal immigration, DACA, and sanctuary cities are a giant kick in the face to Americans and legal immigrants. And that's why I say, loudly and proudly, and I know the one in the Trump shirt is going to say it with me, build that wall. I don't know about you guys, but I guess I just believe in this radical notion that Americans should come first in our own country. I know it's so controversial, but those are just, my final thoughts on some open borders. We'll come back to that later. But here's another radical position. Our law enforcement officers and our armed service members deserve a little more respect in this country. Now, the fact that it needs to be said and the fact that it's controversial to say it is so unbelievably sad. But here we are. But I want you again to participate with me and raise your hand if you have a family member in law enforcement, corrections, anything. That's quite a few of you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your love with us so our communities can be a little bit safer and a little bit more secure. Now, I know this is, again, another controversial position, but I've never shied away from those, as many of you well know. For those out there that still believe our police officers risk their lives every single day and put a target on their backs for an average salary of $50,000 a year just to satisfy some pent-up racism, I've got news for you, you're wrong. Show some respect, and that goes for our brave men and women in the armed forces as well. Now, raise your hand if you've got a family member serving in the armed forces, or a friend. Yeah, they're fighting the evil that some pretend doesn't exist, and they're doing it so that we can sit in this very room. Like I said, they fight the evil some, and mostly on the left, pretend doesn't exist, and they do it so we can sit over here in the greatest nation on the face of the earth and watch spoiled athletes take a knee for our national anthem, and what a load of crap that is. don't know about you guys, but the people that I tend to surround myself with, we stand for the stars and stripes to honor those that have come home under that flag. We stand for the national anthem to honor those warriors who can no longer stand beside us. We stand. Now, the likes of Colin Kaepernick, they have the right to kneel. Don't get me wrong, they absolutely do. That's a free speech that he's exercising. It's the free speech that I'm exercising, but that also means that I have every right to shred him for it. Now, the liberals, they tend to forget that part. It's amazing to me, it really is. Every time I go, just a side note, every time I go on a show, particularly ones that rhyme with the schmally schmo, the likes of Trevor Noah, they tell me, like, you don't want Colin Kaepernick to be able to exercise his right. And I don't know how many times I have to say it. You have every right to kneel. You have every right to do whatever you want. That doesn't mean it's right, but it also doesn't mean that no one criticizes you for it. Lord knows I'm criticized each and every single day for the positions that I take. So I want you guys to remember that as well. If you open yourselves up and you exercise your free speech, that doesn't mean you exist in some kind of a safe space or a bubble wrap that no one can confront you about it, no one can criticize, no one can comment. Just because you have the right to free speech doesn't mean that those around you can't question it or challenge it. And you should welcome that. You should welcome that those around you are interested enough in what you have to say to challenge you. Take it as a compliment. It's not always picking a fight, it's a conversation, and we need to learn to have more of those in this country. And if you're taught not to talk about religion or to not talk about politics, you're taught not to criticize those in popular culture, you're taught that the worst thing that you can possibly do in the United States of America is criticize Beyonce Knowles, I'm sorry, there's a problem. That's not the worst thing you can do in this country, and you have every right to do it, and you should do it more. And like I said at the top, if you lose friends because of it, they're not your friends. Because you should be able to stand in your truth, and you should be able to speak your mind, and the ones that truly respect you will respect you for standing your ground and speaking your mind. They don't have to agree with you. Now, that's a very important point that I want you all to understand. You might have friends that disagree with you, and they can still respect you. And that goes for your family members as well. We don't need to always seek agreement. How boring would this country be if we just agreed with each other all the time? If everyone just walked in lockstep? There are countries that do that, and I don't want to be any part of them, and I know you don't either. So having the opportunity in a country like this that so many have fought and died for, to be able to speak your mind, stand up for what you believe in, but also surround yourself with those with whom you disagree, that's what makes this country so great. So don't shy away from it. Welcome it, embrace it. We need to do that more in this country, and it's going to start with young people. It's not just going to start on TV. It's not going to start in Washington, D.C. It's going to start in rooms like this when we look at each other and say we might have some differences, but we all want what's best for this country. We just have different ways of getting there. And I hope that you all will practice that, especially now that we're out of election season and we're working on this country, because conservatives can't do it alone. Donald Trump can't do it alone. We really do need to band together, and I'm hoping that today you can take away the opportunity to start those difficult conversations and follow them through. But speaking of rights, let's talk about one that I particularly like, and that's the Second. I don't know if any of you in here are fans of the Second Amendment. I know you guys are also fans of the Constitution as well. I mean, I see it all over your beautiful campus. It's a campus that appreciates God, appreciates the Constitution, appreciates the Second Amendment. And yes, those three things do go together. But the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed. It doesn't mean shall be infringed if Jimmy Kimmel and the rest of the Hollywood liberals think that we don't deserve the right to protect and defend ourselves. If these liberals think a terrorist or a lunatic hell-bent on murdering innocent people will somehow be stopped by a plastic gun-free sign or more gun control laws, they're either stupid or living in La La Land. And I live in LA, so I can tell you they do. We have the right to bear arms because we have the right to protect and defend ourselves, and if that makes us a little bit redneck, then so be it. I'm proud to be a redneck, and I like my guns, and I like my God, and I know you do too. Because here's the thing, us rednecks, we would gladly draw our firearms to save the very liberals who look down on us and our gun rights, and they can believe that. We're the first ones in any room to defend those, and it doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter what you believe, it doesn't matter who you voted for. Even if you voted for Hillary, we would still stand up and we would still defend you with our Second Amendment, but they seem to forget that. We'll remind them. Now, for me, the Second Amendment is all about empowerment. There's a group of people who claim to be all about empowerment, but their selective brand of empowerment doesn't seem to include the Second Amendment. No, they prefer to march around in the streets with pink female reproductive organs on their heads. Yes, I'm talking about the feminists. Now, I don't know what happened. I know there are many women in this room today, and I'm so proud to be surrounded by you. Raise your hand if I have a female, or should I say, let's be politically correct, if you identify as a female, please raise your hand. I know you're out there. Now, some of you might be feminists, and that's fine. That's great. I respect that you're a feminist, or that you choose to identify as a feminist, or if you're a male that identifies as a feminist, or mashed potatoes, or whatever people are identifying as these days. I mean, whatever advances your life. You can be Elizabeth Warren, identify as a Native American, whatever you want to be, you can be it in this country, which is great. But I guess I never had that conversation with my mom when I sat down and said, Mom, I want the world to take me seriously. I want the world to hear my voice. And it's funny, my mom never told me, well, hey, if you march around with a pink hat, people will really take you seriously. That really wasn't part of our conversation. But then again, maybe times have changed. But I want to talk about feminism because I think it's important to have this discussion. And I know that there are conservatives in this room, there are liberals in this room, there are feminists in this room, there's anti-feminists in this room. We have a little bit of everything, I am sure. But see, I think it's sad. Feminism used to be all about equal rights, but the liberals, like everything else, they hijacked it. And now, these modern-day feminists have turned female empowerment into nothing more than man-hating, Trump-hating, and demanding free stuff. I'm sorry, but equal rights and demanding free stuff, to me, not one and the same. But the double standard is pretty pathetic. I want you guys to think about this, because we all live in this age of pop culture, and I'm sure that even though a lot of it tends to be certainly left-leaning, we still appreciate pop culture. We probably still watch the Kardashians or the Real Housewives of wherever. So yeah, there are a couple in here. I think that was the guy in the Trump shirt. No, I'm just kidding. But can you guys imagine if Kellyanne Conway, Hope Hicks, Sarah Sanders, Ivanka, or Melania Trump were Democrats? Just think about that for a minute. Imagine if they campaigned for Hillary. They'd be on the cover of every women's magazine from here to Timbuktu, and isn't that something? This whole feminism charade is a farce. It's not about female empowerment. It's about patting liberal women on the back while simultaneously mocking conservative women for everything from our looks to our intelligence. And sorry, you can count me out on that one. And can I just say, I am so darn glad our first female president was not lying, cheating, crooked Hillary Clinton. Can I get an amen? These people on all the networks crying because it was so hurtful to women that Hillary didn't win. I stand here as a woman and say, I hope that the next female president, maybe she's in this room right now, maybe she's in this audience right now, and I hope she'd be someone with integrity. I hope she'd be someone that didn't delete 33,000 emails after a subpoena. But hey, here's to hoping, right? Maybe hope for a Christmas miracle. We can find someone, who's perhaps just slightly bit better than Hillary Clinton. But I got a very important question for you guys, and no matter which way you lean politically, I have a feeling I know how you're going to answer this one. But raise your hand if you trust government. There's got to be one. There's got to be one that wants to do it just for a laugh. Okay, so you guys, there are a couple of folks there that trust government, and I think you're wearing a Donald Trump hat, so you trust Donald Trump. There's a difference. But none of you are raising your hands when I ask you if you trust government. So if you don't trust government, why the hell would you vote to make it bigger? Why? I don't get. It's like I don't trust government. And there are some folks on the left that say, I don't trust government, and I don't trust police, but I want them to take our guns, and I want to give them more power. I don't understand it. That's why I sit here as a limited government conservative. But every time you're in a spirited discussion with your favorite Bernie Sanders supporter, I want you to ask them that question, because it will get them every single time. They won't even know that they're walking into it. Just ask them, do you trust government? Because these people are so funny to me, these Bernie Sanders supporters. Besides the fact that sometimes they don't bathe, beyond that, they tell me like, oh, the man, bring down the man, bring down, the 1%, bring down the billionaires. That's what they want. And then they say, but we just want to make government a little bit bigger, as if those in government are not profiting off of government. It's amazing to me they don't understand it. And then they're sitting there ordering their Communist Manifesto on Amazon Prime, which is, an invention of free market capitalism. They just don't understand it. They go to their Occupy marches and then they order an Uber to leave, and they just don't understand that that is all because of capitalism in the free marketplace. But I want you to remind them of that, because maybe we can convert some Bernie supporters. I think he might run again. And I don't think Hillary is going to steal it from him this time, so we might end up with Bernie as a president if we do not pay attention and start educating our Bernie Sanders supporting friends. But they're well-intentioned, they're good people. They really do want what's best for this country. They just have a math problem. I always call him Bernie Sanders carry the one, because his math just never quite worked out. But poor Bernie, it's okay. Limited government is an idea most Americans can get behind, but the problem is we've got these socialist apologists out there spreading this false utopian dream of free things for all. But let me tell you, there's no such thing as free. It's not free if your neighbor pays for it. So it's just like free college, we all need, everything should be free. But that's how they get you, because socialism starts out with the promise of free things, and it turns into a black market for toilet paper. And if you think I'm kidding, take a look at Venezuela. I'm not kidding you. There is a black market for toilet paper in Venezuela. That's Bernie's socialist dream over there, and I got to tell you, no thank you. I like where we're sitting in the United States of America in Lynchburg, Virginia. I think that view is much better, and this view is much better. Now, I told you at the start I was going to teach you about how to talk about religion and politics, and we've covered politics. I do that every day. But in closing, I want to talk about God. Yes, God. I know in some circles that's a no-no. Well, I have a feeling not here. It's by God's grace we're all here in this room, in this state, in this country, living in the greatest nation on the face of the earth, and that's a nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You need to defend it, and you need to talk about your faith and your love for God, because there are a group of people out there that they don't want you to talk about it in school, they don't want you to talk about it with your friends, they don't want to talk about it on TV, they don't want to talk about it in technology, they don't want to talk about it on the news. I can't tell you how many times I've watched other networks and they've told us it's cliche to offer our thoughts and prayers after a tragedy, and that's just rather sad to me. I think offering our thoughts and, most importantly, our prayers is one of the most important things that'll get us through the difficult times. And we can look to examples across this country where people just like you, Christians just like you, have come together after a major tragedy, and their faith has only grown from it, and they've come together. Liberals, conservatives, black, white, yellow, purple, it doesn't matter. Our faith in God is what binds us, and I have a feeling that this university is unique in that, unlike many universities, that you might not all be conservative, but I have a feeling you guys all have a love for God. So I appreciate it, and you need to defend it, because there are some that won't, and there are some that will attack it. So you need to be the ones out there on the front lines of this whole thing. Listen, folks, I'm incredibly blessed to be here at 25 and speaking to you, and the fact that you came out to see me means so much to me, and I have to tell you, I know where my blessings come from. My blessings don't come from government, they come from God, and I have a feeling you all know what that feels like. And here's another thing. I know that many of you have great parents, and I'm blessed to have two very great parents that raised me in a family where we believed in God, and we talked about God, and we worshiped God, and we appreciate the blessings that God gave us, and they know where they come from. And I'm incredibly blessed because my dad was able to join me today, and he's down there, right there. I got to tell you, and I know I'm running out of time, but I have to tell you this because it's so important. I went through a rather difficult time probably 5 months ago. And it seemed like the world was closing in, and I didn't know, like, why me? Why is this happening? And it seemed like everything was taken away from me. And it's just, I was going through a mess and a battle. And I talked to my parents because I'm so blessed to have them. I'm so privileged to grow up in the family that I did. But they always reminded me, and I always had to keep my faith and say, God is not going to put me through anything that I can't handle, and he's making me stronger, and he thinks I'm pretty strong because he's putting me through this. And every single time I've wished for something, every single time I've prayed for something, and it doesn't happen, it's because God had a better plan. So if you make plans in your life, God's going to laugh at you because he's got a better plan. Trust it. That's why you're in this room. That's why we're all here. That's why we're in this country. And I personally believe that's why we have Donald Trump as our president.